Time for bringing Torah anytime, any place. You know, we have, every time we start getting closer to Rosh Hashanah, and it's not just Rosh Hashanah, it's like really a whole process we think about, happens. We start thinking about how the whole tshuva process works, and we start thinking back to our year, like what led us to this point that we're kind of got so many, things that are like we got to do teshuvah on. What happened? I had great ideas at the beginning of the year. I really wanted to be so successful. I wanted to do so much and learn so much. Person might say, I wanted to finish things. Forget about just learning. Person might have said, I'd like to have been very accomplished. I'd like to have written a book. I speak to people all the time. Their whole lifetime they look back and they say, I wanted to have done this and done this. Why don't they do it? What really stops people? Well, one thing we know is there's this thing called instant gratification. You know what instant gratification means? What does instant mean? On the instant, immediately, in an instant. And gratification means get what you want, gratified. I want this. A person does not really, you go by let's say a donut store, and there's like all the delicious looking donuts, and a person says, I think I'm going to have one donut. That's it. I'm only going to treat myself to one donut. And I have a friend who said he loves donuts. The problem is not that donuts don't like him or whatever it is. He says the problem is that he likes donuts way too much. So he would sit down and polish off like 24 donuts at a time. Yeah, that's right. Now, how's that possible? How are you eating 2 donuts and then later on you're sick? He would be sick. So how is it that, and then also you put on weight really quickly. But how is it that the person doesn't think about what's going to happen to him later on? Instant gratification, because that donut looks so good right now, I want to eat that donut. He's in the now. Now, it's so interesting. Sometimes we're in the now. Some people are only in the future. Like, I have another friend that I grew up with, who he used to come to yeshiva with, no one used to see it. We didn't know about it, but he would come with cakes, all kinds of nash. I mean, like serious cakes. And he would come literally like 4 big cakes with all the frosting and all that good stuff. And no one knew about this because he used to stick it underneath his bed. And it wasn't like our bunk beds over here. It was like really close to the ground. So when you hid that cake underneath the bed, first of all, no one wanted to go underneath that bed. Who knows what's hiding underneath that bed? But no one thought that underneath the bed are a bunch of cakes. But he would put away the cakes. And after maybe 2 months, someone would try to they would pull out the cakes because they're something's off here. Something smells funny. And they're looking around the room, what is it that died, right? And they pull out they come closer to the bed, oh my gosh, it's coming from his bed. And then they see it's underneath the bed, they pull out these big boxes, and inside was, well, it looked like it was kind of like a live cake that was walking. It was covered with all kinds of bacteria, to say the least. It was all kinds of, we had insects and good stuff, right? So it was just gross looking. But in the meantime, why did the guy put away all those cakes and for 2 months didn't eat the cakes? Because what? But why didn't he eat them for 2 months? Procrastinating? Because he was putting away for later, saving it for tomorrow. Hoarding. Now, some people, that's right, there's hoarding. And then there's people who live right in the moment. As soon as they get the cake, it's gone. It doesn't get to the underneath the bed because it's eaten as soon as it comes out of the store. Some people are kind of munching on the cake. as, they're like licking the topping as they're putting into the box, in the first place from the big, let me just taste a little bit of that, right? So there's different types of attitudes. But gentlemen, they found a very interesting thing. No. This is a different thing, not the marshmallow test. They did something which they attached a bunch of electrodes to somebody's head, and that way you're able to see like a whole scan of what their, kind of like how their brain is working when they're thinking of certain things. And they showed the person, interesting, they showed the person pictures of other people, not themselves, somebody else. And then they'd see how the scan of the brain, how the brain is like, kind of like lit up in different areas of it. And then they showed all kinds of other things. And then they showed also thinking about saving, thinking about the future, thinking about, somehow graduating or something like that. And it was an interesting thing. The brain scans were the same colors and everything else that had lit up the same way as when they think about somebody else that they don't even know. And what did that really show? That when we think about ourselves in the future, it's kind of like we're thinking of ourselves as someone else. That's somebody else. It's not me. So when I pick up and eat those donuts, am I thinking about my stomach ache later on? No, that's someone else. When I go and I do something that I shouldn't be doing, and do I think about the consequences? No, that's somebody else. When I think of saying something, I'm going to hurt someone else's feelings, and do I think about the consequences, the repercussions, what's going to happen later on? Nope, that's somebody else. So gentlemen, it's a very difficult thing. It's a big problem. It's a big challenge. Because what they found is that we think of our future as our future not being ourselves. So you're right, when it comes to, let's say, saving money, economists have found the same concept, saving money. Why should I save money? Why should I put away all this savings? I get money. And I take the money and I go, okay, I'm going to cut off a big chunk of that and I'm going to put it into a savings account. I'll put it in some kind of an investment. Well, why should I do that? I've got the money right now. Here are the donuts. I've got the money right now. Here's this cool thing I want to buy. And if I put away the money, that's going for somebody else. Now, I'm trying to save it for me and for my family or our future. But typically, people end up thinking, nah, that's somebody else. In fact, that's why they have found people go and spend on credit cards. And why not spend on the credit card? You go to the credit card, you swipe it. My grandson, it's so funny. I bought him a toy, an ice cream truck. I bought him this ice cream truck. It took us like an hour to put it together, whatever, right? Yeah, it was the hardest ice cream truck to put together. At least it wasn't like the real truck that would have taken us who knows how long. But it was just like this wooden ice cream truck thing, and we were like screwing the pieces together, great. And he's 2 years old. 2 years old. I want you to understand how quickly everybody picks up this stuff. 2 years old, and we come over to him, and he's got all these ice creams, and we say to him, Shmuel, I'd like to buy an ice cream. And he goes, that's he goes. So we all had taken like these little cards and made them into our like credit cards. And he goes, credit card, 2 years old. So we give him the credit card. He goes like this. Onto this little thing. He goes, ding. He goes, ding. Gives us back the credit card. And he gives us an ice cream cone. Now, people go and they spend. See, it's very cute to take it and go ding, 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 or whatever it is, whatever sound it makes. It's cute. It's fun. It's easy. You know why? Because we're not thinking about having to pay that credit card bill later on. But life, that is the way life is. Life is we take a credit card, basically, and we do do our Averas and use our time. Maybe where we don't use our time. We're basically just swiping the credit card, not thinking about how that's going to affect us in the future. And we just don't see that. Now, anybody have heard of this thing called a Ponzi scheme? Come on, it's become very popular. Heard of this thing called a Ponzi scheme? Anyone heard of it? There was a guy named Charles Ponzi. And Charles Ponzi came up with this a bunch of years ago. It's like, I think, almost 100 years ago. Came up with an idea. He got people to invest in a company. And he says, you're going to get great returns. You give me $100. Oh, you're not going to just get back $100. You're going to get back $200. I'm going to give you back $200 very quickly. So people go, holy cow, you get back $200? That's like crazy. Usually you have to wait a long time. You got a certain small rate that you can get back a return. He's giving back such a big return. So people started saying, okay, let me see what happens. So let me give you $50, see what happens. Give them $50. Sure enough, a couple months later, they get back double, $100. Well, what do you think they're going to do now? Oh, this is great. You know what? This is crazy. So I'm going to give you $200, $500, $1,000. I'm going to give you tons of money. And people started investing. Now, what was his investment that he was really doing? Where was the company? The company was a real company that wasn't doing that great. It was a big problem with the company that he was using, that he was supposedly investing with, his company. So what he was really doing was like kind of like churning the money. You gave me $1,000, and that guy had given me $100. So I'm going to take 100 from the 1,000 that you gave me, and I'm going to pay him his 100 plus an extra 100. And then people start hearing that the money's being doubled. So what do you think they all wanted to do? Invest more money. So people are giving me now $5,000, and I would give you back $2,000. Now, the problem is I'm not really making any money. I'm just spending the money, giving people back crazy returns. What do you think it was his plan? He didn't have a plan, I don't think. Answer is, at some point, it was going to collapse. And everyone's going to come to him and say, those guys that gave all the money, they gave the big money, they're going to say, where's our money? Forget my double, where's my investment? He didn't really think that part through, because why? It's like the credit card. Are you thinking about a year from now? No. Are you thinking through the whole plan? No. You're just living in the moment. And I want that donut right now. I want that, I'll play with that game right now. I'll play with that book, read that book right now. Am I going to learn now? Am I going to think about my future? Am I going to invest, put away money? No, I'm not going to do that, because I want right now. And I'm not thinking about, that's really me. Now imagine if you had a picture of yourself in like 10 years from now. Picture yourself in 10 years. Picture like, you want to learn, let's say a Gemara, and you say, yeah, why should I learn all this Gemara? The truth of the matter is, who am I going to be? I'm fooling myself? I'm not going to be anybody. They go, no, take a look. This is a picture of you in a couple of years. You're going to be this big rabbi, but that's if you do all the learning that you need to do. Or a guy says, I want to become, let's say, a doctor, and he goes, yeah, okay, I'm telling you, this could be you. This is you. I showed you a picture from the future, right? One of those future books, right, with a time machine, right? Take the time machine, go ahead, you see it. Oh my gosh, that's me? Yeah, that's if you did learn. But then they show you, take you a time machine if you didn't learn. And right, I think it would be a lot easier for people to choose to be productive with their time. Problem is, we don't really think about ourselves in that future. What do we think of ourselves? Right now. I want this now. And you know what? People, they check off, the whole year goes by, and we check off day. Now, if you would have, instead of just checked off the day, boom, that day's gone. It's gone. By the way, that means you're never get back that day ever again. When you check off that day's never coming back. So if you wrote in the day, you wrote in that space what I learned that day, what I accomplished that day. And then you could look back and see, after a couple months, how much you actually accomplished on every single day and what it accrued, what it grew into. I think people would be more interested into doing more. But what do we end up doing? Just pulling the day off and throwing it in the garbage, right? You got those calendars that they're tear-off papers, right? You take it, throw it away. It's gone. But gentlemen, imagine if you tore off the paper and you wrote on that paper what you accomplished that day, how many Mishnayos you learned, how much Gemara you learned, what you did, the davening was a great davening, etc. Then you had stacks of those. That's what they're doing in Shemayim. They're looking at how many days basically we tore off and threw away versus how many days we filled with doing stuff, with writing on those papers, and then soon it accumulated into a big stack. So gentlemen, every day, let's make it count. Right now, I know you're not thinking about your future as much. It's hard to do that. But I believe every single guy here is going to be somebody amazing one day. What you've got to do is make yourself that amazing person. Think positive. Let's have a great day.